Hey everyone, it's Julia. In honor of it being time to go back to school, I thought I would tell you guys my top 10 favorite books that I had to read for school. A lot of the time when you're forced to read books for English class, it's not fun and it makes people not like reading. But I was fortunate enough to have several good English teachers that gave me a lot of good books, and I want to share them all with you. Number 10 is 40 Studies That Changed Psychology by Roger R. Hawk. I had to read this for AP English class. It's a book of 40 case studies that are really important to psychology. Some of the really interesting ones include things like looking at seizure patients that had to have their corpus callosum removed, which is the area of the brain that connects your left and right hemispheres. I saw what things people weren't able to do when their two hemispheres couldn't communicate. There are also some studies that are a little more gruesome that took place after World War II when people were trying to figure out why the Nazis and their followers acted the way they did and how people could be so cruel and just blindly follow people. If you have any interest in psychology, I would definitely pick this up. If you guys are interested, I could talk about a bunch of these cases in a video. Let me know, I would be happy to do it. I love psychology. Number 9 is The Memory of Running by Ron McClarty. This book is about a man named Smithy. He's in his 40s, he has a very depressing life, he's overweight, he works in a toy manufacturing company. And then the story begins with his parents die in a car accident, and this just completely shatters him, and then to top it all off, he finds out that his schizophrenic sister, who's been missing for years and years, her body is turned up in California on the other side of the country. In his state of depression, he gets a bicycle and just takes a journey across the country to go see her body. He runs into all these conflicts and interesting people along the way, and he grows as a person, and there's some romance in there, and you get to know his backstory about his sister and how she dealt with schizophrenia, and it's a really interesting read for both characterization and psychology. Definitely recommend it. Number 8 is Animal Farm by George Orwell. This book is an allegory for communist government. The animals all represent these powerful political figures at the time. It really tells the story of how, trying to set up a government where everyone's equal is good on paper, but in reality, people are greedy and someone will take over as a leader, and how people tend to abuse power. Number 7 is The Crucible by Arthur Miller. This is hands down the best play I've ever read and seen performed. It tells the story of the Salem witch trials, and it is also an allegory for McCarthyism and how during the Cold War there was the communist hunt in America, and it compares it to the Salem witch hunts. And John Proctor is just one of the most heroic characters to me. He really has to make this incredible choice at the end, whether he lies and gets to be with his family and live, but the witch hunts will probably continue, or he tells the truth and keeps his name, but he gets executed, and the Salem witch trials might end because people will see him as a martyr. One of the most heart-wrenching plays with the best characters, and if you haven't seen it performed or seen the movie, I would definitely recommend you go do that immediately. Number 6 is The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. Tim O'Brien was a soldier in the Vietnam War, so the book is loosely based on what happened to him and his friends. One of the main themes of the book is that all war stories are true, even if they're not true. It's a little hard to explain. I would recommend looking at SparkNotes to really understand all of that. A lot of the stories are something one of the soldiers made up as a story they told around the fire. It's an exaggerated thing with some symbolism, but they all really tell the story of the war and how they felt before, during, and after, and all the emotional turmoil they had to go through. This is the best war novel I've ever read. If you're into that kind of thing or you want to try it, I would definitely recommend this one specifically. Number 5 is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is my favorite classic. It tells the story of Lizzie Bennet. Her mom is obsessed with marrying her and her sisters off because they have no brothers to inherit the land, so it'll go to some random male relative they don't know otherwise. But Lizzie is a very strong female character, and she wants to marry for love, and she knows what she wants. She's just the most amazing character. I relate to her so much. It tells her story, trying to find love and warding off men. Number 4 is Snow Falling on Cedars by David Gutherson. This book takes place after World War II, A lot of the backstory that takes place is about Japanese internment camps because it takes place on an island with a high Japanese population. I feel like it's a really brushed over part of US history that after Pearl Harbor happened, all the Japanese Americans were sent to internment camps, and it was just really not a good moment in American history. And I think it's very important to learn about what they went through, all that. The main plot of the story is a Japanese American man is accused of murdering a white man on the island, and you don't really know if he did or not until the very end of the book, which is really good. You solve the case along with everybody. The character who tells the story is Ishmael. He's the island reporter, and he has the opportunity to look into information about the murder that the police don't, and it could possibly be some really important information. But Ishmael has always been in love with the Japanese American man's wife, and they have this whole backstory where they were together as teenagers, and it was forbidden love. And this story just has so many layers. Number 3 is Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Most of you probably had to read this. It tells the story of Holden Caulfield. He's very depressed. He's kind of a juvenile delinquent. He's very depressed after his brother dies, and he wanders around New York. And the book is this awesome writing style, the stream of consciousness from him. I think this book is very split of if you liked it or you didn't. I think a lot of people don't like how negative Holden seems, and they don't really get all his thoughts because they're a little scattered. But I really connected to him, and I could tell what he really meant by all his random musings. And it's just a really good story about dealing with depression and coming of age and finding out who you are. Number 2 is Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. This book tells the story of Milkman Dead. Yes, that is his name. If you want to find out more about that, read the book. Names are very important in this book. Milkman's family is one of the only well-off African-American families in their area, and his family is very dysfunctional. All the kids have been forced to live in the house into their 30s and 40s, and Milkman ends up going on a journey to find his past and the origins of his ancestors. There's a lot of good African legends and myths that you learn about. And then there's also all of these side stories of characters you come to love. Interesting thing about this book is at first I liked every character except Milkman. I thought he was kind of a jerk, but as the story goes on, he really becomes a better person, and you get to go on this journey with him. I love Toni Morrison's writing style. She's really good with characters and incorporating her heritage into her novels and dealing with racism. A lot of people don't really like some of her books because they deal with some controversial topics. The Bluest Eye, a lot of people thought the thing that happened in that was kind of wrong, but I think she's just really not afraid to talk about things that do honestly happen, and I really commend her for that. And number 1 is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This book really speaks for itself, quite honestly. I'm sure you've all heard of it, told from the perspective of a little girl named Scout during the Great Depression, her life during the summer and growing up. And this is one of my favorite books ever. If you, for some reason, haven't read it, go read it right now. It is amazing. Atticus Finch and Scout are the best characters ever. And that has been my top 10. I hope you guys are looking forward to going back to school soon. I know I am. Leave in the comments below what books you enjoyed reading in English class. I'd love to know. I'm finally allowing people to follow me on Twitter, so go click on that link down below and follow me. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!